Finding and motivating a sales team is hard enough, but now everyone's remote. In this video, we are going to share our tips and best practices for how to motivate a remote sales team. And we're going to tell you how to avoid the single biggest mistake we see small businesses make. I'm LizJSimpson, founder of The Big Money Movement, accompanied by
Cheryl Parks
and Heather Petherick,
our esteemed coaches at The Big Money Movement. And listen, when we talk about tip number 1 for motivating a sales team, let me go first. Baby, it is that money, dollar bills. What is my commission check gonna look like? What is that base check looking like? Like, how are you going to help me achieve my desired lifestyle? I will be the first to say that one of the things that is so attractive to me about sales is the fact that I can control how much I make based off of my individual performance. Like, you're like, wait, if I do my best, if I'm ambitious, and if I'm driven, if I improve my skill set, that means I can increase how much money I make. So money is very attractive. So make sure that you're thinking about how to create an incentive plan that rewards performance, right? I was one of those people, I was a horrible employee, right? Meaning that the idea of having a job for incremental 0.5%, 1% salary raises over years, it just felt like a slow death to me. I'm like, how do I have quantum leap revenue growth? And so I see too often small businesses, and I have this conversation with a lot of small businesses who are like, oh, I'll do base only. And I'm like, well, you're like undercutting what really motivates a lot of salespeople, which is creating a paycheck based off of their performance. And another part of the money that I think is important to say, just kind of a cautionary tale, I've been in organizations who created incentives because they didn't expect people to hit them. And then all of a sudden it felt like it was a moving target. Like, oh, now that you've hit this, we realized how much more commission we're paying out. So now let's change the rules of engagement. And that was completely demotivating for me. So make sure, 1, that you're clear on the incentives and you're creating a performance-based atmosphere to drive the ambition of your sales teams. 2, make sure you're ready to stick to it, right? Like, if your salespeople are helping you make money, everybody wins. We pay attention. It's like, it's nothing like the feeling of fighting for your freaking commission as a salesperson. The third part as well is making sure it's clear. Like, salespeople, listen, most of us, now I'm drawing in broad strokes now, but most of us are not the most detail-oriented people, right? Like, that's not something that normally shows up. But listen, we are going to know our commission plan like the back of our hand, right? So make sure it's simple to understand, because the last thing you want is confusion around incentives. So I say, first and foremost, money. Now that we got that out the way, Cheryl and Heather, what are your thoughts for other tips for motivating?
I'm going to jump in. I love your thoughts about money because compensation is key, right? It's the first thing that salespeople are going to ask about. But if we're setting up our salespeople for success, we also want to know, as the managers, as the business owner of the sales staff, that what we're actually inspecting, what we're looking at for managing performance. And there's 2 things I want, our viewers to know. There are lagging indicators and there are leading indicators. Yes. Now, let me describe. So the leading indicators are the critical activities that your salespeople are going to be doing every day, every week, every month, to ultimately bring those lagging indicators, which are the paydays, right? The proposals closed, the sales, the deals won. Yep. Those are the lagging, right? But we've got to celebrate and incentivize the leading indicators, because if we aren't doing those, then what we actually set up is this culture of peaks and valleys.
Right.
I'm a rock star mountain peak one day because I got a big, deal closed, but then it could be weeks before I see another deal closed. And if I am only celebrating the big wins as a salesperson, then I'm going to have this, the roller coaster effect, and it's going to wear, like I call it emotional buoyancy for your sales staff. Ew. We have to continue to have a culture where we are celebrating the daily wins, the daily action taking, those leading indicators. Are you doing the right things every day, every week that will ultimately, by hook or by crook, bring the big deals and the deals closed? But if we're only celebrating those pinnacle moments, then you are going to have a sales staff that, there isn't that emotional buoyancy and that resilience that you need season after season. So leading and lagging indicators are key, and make sure that we have a culture that celebrates the leading actions that will ultimately bring those big wins.
And can I just like pinpoint something there? Because I think that's brilliant. We're assuming that the business leaders know what those leading indicators are, right? Because I think too often we'll talk to small business owners, and so they are focused on revenue, top line growth, or what have you, but they haven't reverse engineered what are the behaviors and activities that if we focus on these, more often than not, it's going to get us across the finish line. So that takes, even before you bring in the sales team, you have to know that.
You got to know that about your business, right? And to go a little bit deeper, so those leading indicators are the things the sales staff can control, right?
Yes.
Yep.
How many conversations did I invite today? How many demonstrations did I book? How many proposals did I submit? Those are the actions that they can do every day, every week, that's within their control, right? And when we focus on those, we know that, like when we reverse engineer, we know with certainty that ultimately, over the long run, those big wins are going to come.
I love it. So we have commission, so we can attract great, highly motivated salespeople, and then we're giving them great KPIs, leading indicators that they can sink their teeth into. Cheryl, what's next then?
So you touched on a little bit, Heather, but that inspect what you expect, right? That is so key to understand.
Oh, wait, no, you didn't finish it, because the best part, I want them to get respect.
RESPECT, you have to inspect what you expect. As a leader, you want the respect of your sales team, right? So you really need to be inspecting what you expect, and from the standpoint of helping with growth. Right? Not from a micromanagement standpoint, but
not
literally
a big stick sort of approach. No.
Literally that growth perspective, and understanding that, yes, what do you have control over? That's key. What the conversations, the invitations. I know that in the area that I was actually in corporate sales, we knew that if we got someone or got a client to a buyer to a demo or a tour of a facility that I worked for, that was a key leading indicator.
Yes.
Like literally 80% conversion.
Yep.
So, so everything kind of marched to that. We knew that that was where we were going, demo or actual tour. That'll tell you how long ago I was selling. People don't tour.
Listen, now that's still applicable.
But in my early days, the other thing that was key was they would do like a leaderboard in terms of revenue, right? So who were the leaders in revenue? But then we had who were the leaders in profitability.
Oh.
So you don't want to be the leader in revenue and be not even on the profitability board, right?
Right.
You wanted to show up in both spaces, within the top 10%. I mean, that was always the goal.
Yeah.
And if you got the revenue and the profitability, RESPECT for the salespeople.
Yes.
Right?
And what I love about that too then is going back to the leaders knowing what the business goals are, what drives the business forward, and then creating incentives, right? Not all incentives are monetary, right? Like creating, because, again, not speaking for everyone, going in broad strokes. I also, not only do I love money, but I also love seeing my name on the leaderboard, right? Like, so to your point, now they've incentivized behaviors that help fuel the business through that inspection.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Some of the most toxic sales environments I've seen is where, whether it was by design or default, they were incentivizing unintentionally or unknowingly the wrong behaviors.
100%.
Right? If there wasn't an eye for profitability and they were only celebrating and rewarding, the deals won, but not what it's taking to create those deals, you end up with, I'm going to say, an incestuous or a really unhealthy competition among your sales staff, which ultimately is not going to be healthy for the business.
Yeah, it's cutthroat. Yeah, and it's really stressful for the team as well, which all of this pretty much feeds into our final tip, which is the importance of culture. Like, I think culture is everything, especially if we're talking about a remote team. Okay, because, what I will say from my corporate environment is, with sales, I had a lot of interactions with my manager, right? I got to know my manager, and I would call coach these days, right? It's like, okay, we're going in the field together, right? Let me see how you're doing. I'm going to give you feedback on how you were in the field. So I was getting consistent feedback. And I will say for myself as a salesperson, the salespeople we've had on our teams, all of us really want that feedback, right? Like it's a performance sport, as Cheryl, as you say over and over. I'm like, okay, how did I do on that play? Like, all right, how do I improve my skill set? And the challenge with the remote team is how do you make sure you provide that consistent feedback, that consistent communication? And I also want leaders to know that if I am a salesperson, and if a significant portion of my income comes from commission, I am trusting that you're going to do what you said you're going to do once I do my part. And so I need a culture of trust. Any thoughts you all want to share on just best practices for building a great culture?
I think communication is key, and there's some debate in the marketplace, but I will say broad strokes, more communication is better than less.
Yes.
So, there's some that will advise that it's daily sales meetings, and sometimes with a small startup sales team, that might be overkill, but for sure, you should be checking in with your sales staff, on I would say at least a couple of times a week to have blocked in the calendar, dedicated time to talk about what were the wins, what were the challenges, what needs to be changed or modified for their success.
Yeah.
So communication is definitely key. I'm also going to say that I think beyond an attractive compensation plan, most salespeople are overachievers, right? We want a way to win. And with that winning, we need ways to develop and grow. So the ability to continually develop our skill set. And with a remote team, right? It's whether it's virtual team building events or whether it's virtual training that you have access to, you've got to be feeding your sales people, the nutrition of what it's going to take to develop their skill set and elevate their performance. So that is another piece that I think is a non-negotiable.
I love that. Nutrition. Nutrition. I mean, if you want to exchange nutrition for training, that's where we are in the scope of the world right now. So yeah, I think that's a fantastic point.
Cool.
Listen, okay, so now that we're talking about nutrition and training, we gotta go a little bit deeper. So join us. We gotta go to the next video to achieve this. We wanna talk about why social selling is important, right? We're talking about a remote sales team, and social selling is just a distinct advantage in today's day and age. Click the next video where we are going to dive deeper in best practices in social selling. See you there.